there, this is Dr. at Mercy Medical. I am reporting the suspicious death of one Ryland McDonald. He was taken in here in the last hour or so and was unresponsive. We've observed multiple signs to the victim that prompted me to make a report.
Okay, ma'am, and the child wasn't responsive or breathing when he got there?
No pulse, no response to stimuli, nothing.
Gotcha. Who accompanied the child upon arrival?
His mother and later the mother's boyfriend.
And the mom and stepdad, or boyfriend, are both still on site?
Yes, they are. They're outside on the curb and appears to be smoking.
All right, I just put in a request to RPD for them to swing by. The location is Mercy Medical, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Thank you for that. The victim's name is Ryan McDowell, you said?
Actually, it's Ryland McDonald.
Ryland McDonald. Got it. And his age?
He's not even 3, just a young pup.
Okay, I sent out for a unit and they should be arriving shortly.
Okay, thank you so much.
Is there any doubt in your mind?
That I did anything to him?
Yeah.
No. None.
Has there ever been a time that he was hurt while he was in your custody?
No. None whatsoever.
On August 24th of 2021, police received a call advising them that a 2-year-old named Ryland McDonald had been brought into Mercy Hospital in Rogers, Arkansas. The authorities made contact on the scene with Ryland's mother, Breyana Sawyer. She explained that the 2-year-old had been having stomach problems for almost a month. When the child threw up multiple times on the 20th of August, she took him to a local clinic that referred her to a children's hospital in Springdale. Breyana claimed that on August 23rd, her boyfriend Gustavo Enrique Peraza, who goes by Gus, agreed to look after Ryland while she went to work at a local food place called Casey's Pizza. According to her, hours later, a concerned Gus arrived at her work explaining that Ryland had fallen at a park and then began to vomit. Gus then stayed behind to take over Breyana's shift, allowing Breyana to rush her son to the hospital. Sadly, Ryland McDonald was pronounced dead shortly after arrival.
Now, the ER said that she come running inside with the baby, and they looked at him, and the baby was totally blue. They had respiration where they just take a gasp every now and then.
Agonal respiration.
Agonal respiration. The baby had that and blue. And
so the baby got here and was still
somewhat alive.
Doing something. Okay. Wow. That's a lot.
During an observation conducted by the authorities, bruising was observed on the child's left and right arms, indicative of someone grabbing him. There was also bruising on the back of his leg, and 2 more in the middle of his spine. Breyana was forthcoming about the fact that earlier that day, she had given Ryland an adult dose of Dramamine. This was due to his propensity to get carsick, but when it came to the injuries on her son's body, there was nothing else that she could think of that would be noteworthy at that time. When the police spoke to Gus, he claimed that on the day of Ryland's death, the child appeared weak and fell at a local park at some point. Gus then stated that he put Ryland in the car and drove the pair to a Chick-fil-A parking lot. At some point during this time is when Gus says the boy threw up. He also noted that at this point, Ryland appeared even weaker than before. He then said he left the parking lot before arriving at Casey's Pizza to inform Breyana of Ryland's condition and take over her shift. An autopsy on August 25th concluded that Ryland's cause of death was most consistent with blunt force trauma to the stomach, which caused a serious injury to his intestine. There were also bruises found on his face, arms, legs, and torso. It was deemed that the main injuries the kid sustained likely came from an intentional kick or punch to the torso, which would have been inflicted within a week of the victim's death. One day later, on August 26th, Breyana Sawyer was brought in for questioning by CID at Rogers Police Department. What you're about to see is her first recorded police interview. The name Ryland was previously censored out of the footage. This is typically done in open cases involving minors in Arkansas. Because the case is now closed, his name has been released to the public. But because it's only one name that's censored out, I won't be using AI to sub it back in. This made sense on the Blue and Taylor Rowland case because there were 2 names being referred to, and it was important to distinguish between them. But in this case, if you hear a blank spot in the audio, it's the name Ryland.
I want to know from the time you woke up Monday morning, exactly every detail of what went on that day, okay?
It was just a normal day, me and laying in my bed. Mom brings him into my room before she leaves, which she leaves about 7:30. So he was in there with me. I was off and on sleep, but he was just laying there with me, watching his phone. And then eventually when I figured out he just wasn't going to go back to sleep, I got up. It was about 10 maybe is when we were both up. Then I got a call from the, and they asked if we can come in today for a checkup to see how I was doing. So I said yes, and they asked if I could go in at 1:50, and I said yes. So after that, I still had quite a bit of time before his appointment, so we just hung out at home, running around the house, just doing his own thing and stuff, just playing around the house, watching his phone. Then eventually I gave him a bath. Got him dressed, and then I took a shower, and then we left, went to the appointment, waited till they told us to come in, then we went in, and that was it.
Okay. And then what time did you get down to the doctor for?
It was sometime after 2.
And he wasn't feeling well?
Yes.
But then you guys met Gus at Springdale, right?
Yes.
After the doctor's appointment, Breyana took Ryland to a local Walmart to find some non-drowsy nausea medication. She was unable to locate what she was looking for, so she settled for giving her son some adult Dramamine. The two then exited Walmart and met Gus in the parking lot around 3 p.m. Breyana and Ryland hung out in Gus's car where she claims they watched Netflix on a phone. At one point, she described how they tried to play with Ryland, but he didn't feel well and didn't want to walk, which is not surprising if you gave him Dramamine. Anyone who's ever taken it knows that stuff can put you right to sleep. But Breyana was under the impression that her son's legs were hurting. Then at around 5 p.m., she leaves Ryland with Gus and travels to work in her own car. According to Breyana, she believes Gus then stopped at a Taco Bell for some food.
So, he went to Taco Bell, got food, and then where'd he?
They drove around. I know they did. When he changed, he said he stopped at a Walmart in Springdale because he was close to that Walmart. He always changes even his own kids. He always changes them in a public place when it's in a car. He takes them out, puts them in, and has them in the back of the trunk because he's got that big trunk because he has a Tahoe.
Okay.
So he just lays them in the back. It's always in a public area, so he's weird like that. He just always wants to make sure people can see him,
Right.
so they don't think he's doing something bad. Or
in my opinion, this was a very important part of Breyana's statement. What you've just heard Breyana described is a logical fallacy. It makes no sense for someone to change a child in the view of the public for the purpose of keeping that audience from suspecting any wrongdoing. As a matter of fact, him choosing to change the child in front of others is the sole reason for the audience he wishes not to alert. The logic just isn't there. If Gus was really concerned that people might see him with a child and get the wrong idea, it makes so much more sense for him to change that child in a space that's designated for that activity, somewhere away from the view of other people. This take is odd. But what I find just as odd is the fact that Breyana is presenting this information in a police interview about her son's death in a way that almost seems as if it seeks to pre-defend Gus, as if to say, look how careful he is with kids. Given the abundance of information already at hand, if I were her, I'd be desperately searching for answers. The last thing I'd be doing is defending a man who was the last and only person who was near my son when he ended up dying from horrific injuries he could not have possibly caused himself. I just found Breyana's reasoning off here.
Is he texting you, telling you all this stuff?
No.
Calling you?
No, he's told me since
Okay.
and stuff, but he was texting me and telling me that pretty much worried about he didn't look good and stuff, and I kept telling him that he was okay. He was just tired. He had a nap.
He was texting you saying he was worried about him?
Yeah.
What was he worried about?
Just because he knew I've been sick the past couple of months, and he just didn't want, not past couple of months, the past month. He just didn't want to get sick again or nothing.
And do you still have those texts and the times
Yes.
that he texts you? Do you mind showing us?
As detectives review messages exchanged between her and Gus regarding Ryland feeling unwell, they talk her into allowing them to temporarily take her phone in order to search it for information that might aid in their investigation. During this time, she makes a comment about how Gus was always concerned for Ryland's well-being. She further states that he was simply following her guidance as a mother when she told him that her son was fine. Even though Gus was claiming the child didn't look good, there was clearly something wrong with Ryland. But now the detective wants to know more details about why Gus kept him so often.
So, and again, this sounds a little bit weird. Why did Gus watch on Mondays?
Because I went into work a little earlier. Both mom and dad were usually at work, and Gus thought of his own son, so he also liked to spend time with him. So we just thought Mondays he was usually after he got off, he had the time.
Okay.
So instead of me sitting there waiting on mom's job and being late for work or wondering when dad was going to get home, they have their schedules. It's never really. Yeah, it might be she gets supposed to get off at 5, but it's never, and like dad's supposed to get off at 5 or 6, but it's never a actual time. Mom usually doesn't get home till after 7, and dad doesn't, it's always a different time. It could be after 5, it could be after 6, or even later.
Okay.
So it was easier for Gus to help me out on Mondays. Plus, like I said, he thought he was his old kid, or like his 4th kid, so he always loved to enjoy taking and just hanging out with him.
That makes absolute sense.
The couple spent a lot of time in vehicles with Ryland. Apparently this is because Gus didn't live nearby and Breyana lived with her parents. She described how her father often treated her like a child. While I find it appalling for a 2-year-old boy to be frequently stuck in a car seat for long periods of time, not to mention watching a phone screen, lack of options for where to go might be the couple's selfish reason for doing it. The weirdest thing she said in that last segment was that she trusts Gus. And obviously at this point we don't know whether or not she should. But her son died of unexplained injuries while with this person 2 days prior to this interview, and Breyana doesn't seem the least bit concerned about anything but defending him. Actually, if you haven't noticed, Breyana doesn't appear to be concerned at all. At some point in a situation like this, surely you'd begin to have your doubts and your trust would waver. Well, not Breyana's, and I just found that odd.
Did he ever show any sort of, I don't want to say fear because he's 2, but did he ever knock favor somebody that he'd been around?
No.
I mean,
We loved everyone.
yeah. He didn't have any sort of, and that's pretty. As few people as he's exposed to. If he displayed some sort of distaste under somebody, how would you react to that? Does that make sense?
I don't know though, because I had never seen him have that kind of feeling towards anyone.
Yeah, I didn't think so, because I mean, he's only around several,
He's just around, the same people. I mean, my cousin, who he hasn't seen in forever, came up a while ago. You know, he played with the kid, and he was just happy and played with her. I mean, and even she was pretty much like a stranger to him. So
I want to dive back into the rest of Monday, if you're okay with it. I don't know where you guys were at. So on where were we at on Monday? You left. He went to Taco Bell somewhere in Springdale. Is that right? You said he stayed off the highway, and then he went to Walmart to change his clothes.
To change his diaper. Change his clothes or change his diaper?
change his diaper.
Okay. So at that point, had he thrown up?
I'm not exactly sure if he had at that point, or that I don't remember if that was at that point or not. I just know when he did throw up, he did change his clothes. He tried to lay him down on the floor, like the floorboard, you know, comfortably, of course, but, you know, to see if maybe that would help.
When you say floorboard, what does that, explain that to me? Because I'm thinking like where you, in the front floorboard where you put your...
No, not the front one, the back, where he had more room and was able to lay down, because car seats he probably wasn't comfortable in the car seat at that time.
Okay, he has a Tahoe.
Yeah.
Okay, I got you.
You know, and he said he was checking on to make sure he was okay. Stood up after his little nap he took, was holding his tummy. And I think he threw up when he was holding his tummy.
In the car? Okay.
I just know that also when he tried to feed him, he was trying to take a bite, but I guess just after putting it or going towards his mouth about to take a bite, it just made him throw up. The one time that he threw up wasn't bad, but after trying to eat, it was a little more than the time before.
Where were they at when this all took place?
I don't know the exact spots. I just know they drive around. They're always in different spots.
Okay.
You know, I trust Gus, so I never thought of anything wrong. I mean, I do the same thing. I don't like being at home, and so we just drive around, go to different places, and just sit.
So, any other places that you know that he took them, or they went, or
somewhere over there by, I believe by that mall on Pinnacle Hills. I think he said they parked there for a little bit or something. I think.
at Pinnacle Hills?
No, there's like the Andy's ice cream.
Okay, yeah.
And there's a parking lot over somewhere in the area by the Juicy something.
Juicy Tails.
Yes.
Yeah, that's that. I've seen that sign. Okay. So he parked over there and just hung out with him for a while, or?
Yep, just tried to see if he would take a nap and stuff, you know, maybe, because like I said, I kept telling him he was tired, and so he was just trying to listen to me and seeing him take a nap.
So he's at Juicy Tails, right?
Yes.
I'm gonna make this down so we don't get off track.
I'm glad about it. Can you give me just a minute? I'm gonna set that up real quick. I'll be right back.
So he's hanging out at Juicy Tails.
Around that time after that, I believe, is when he decided he was going to come bring me to see if he would cheer up, maybe just, you know, wanting to see his mom. We didn't think it was something bad. He wasn't that bad when before he got to me. Still fine. He was still good. But it was when, I guess, within that time frame of him driving to me or something, or as soon as he got to me is when, and we pulled him out and seen that.
I just can't get over how she talks about her son 2 days after his suspicious death. It's as if she's describing a car problem to a mechanic. She's also inconsistent. Breyana claims they didn't think Ryland's condition was of major concern, yet Gus was messaging her about it repeatedly. The concern was at a high enough level that Gus rushed over to Breyana's work and covered her shift so she could take the boy to the ER. It's as if he was more concerned than she was. Breyana's constant minimizing in this interview is draining.
So Ryan was fine while he was at Juicy Tails with
Yes.
Gus.
He did say that he noticed a grunting noise coming out of his, like a grunting noise. So that did worry him, and that but he didn't think it was like bad. But he did want to bring him to me.
A grunting noise coming from.
Yeah, it's just like it kind of. He said it sounded like what he usually makes when he's about to throw up. That's what he said it sounded like.
Okay.
And so he brought it, but he was fine. He wasn't acting bad like he was when he got to me. And then when he got to me, that's what.
So is he on the phone with you now, Gus, telling you this stuff, or?
No, this was when we were at the hospital.
No, I'm saying when he's at Juicy Tails and he realizes.
I believe that's where he was when he was texting me that he was going to bring me to see if maybe he cheers up.
Okay, so he's texting you. That's what I'm asking. Is he communicating with you about, hey, he's not acting right, I'll bring him to you?
I mean, in the text it says that, you know, like, hey, he doesn't look good. You can see me. I'm just saying he's fine. He's just tired, you know. And Gus was still just concerned for him, and then he just said he's going to bring him to me, so to see if maybe I can cheer him up, because we weren't thinking it was anything that serious, and I wasn't especially. But so then when he got to me, he pulled him out of the car seat for me. I grabbed him, and Gus just said something just doesn't seem right when he pulled him out. So I was sitting there, I was freaking out. I didn't know what to do. Gus told me that I should just take him to the hospital, like take him right now. And so I was freaking out still, like everything was going through my head at that time. And he was like, I will call Tasha, I will tell her I'm going to finish out your shift, like you need to take your son to the doctor. So that's when we ran inside. He got up at the register or whatever, he gave me my purse, and I went out the door. And I left, and I went to the hospital.
Okay. Did you take your car to the hospital?
I did.
Okay. And tell me how How acted on the way to the hospital?
Just he was breathing. He was still breathing, but he just couldn't really move his body. Is what it seemed like. Like his whole body was just, like he had no bones or something. I don't know how to explain how he was. I just know it wasn't right.
Just limp?
Yes, limp. Like he couldn't hold his body up.
Couldn't hold his head up. He was just kind of.
Yeah, just like even if I put it like this, he was just like this. Like I don't know.
What was this? Like his eyes open, closed?
His eyes were open. He was blinking. He was breathing. I could hear him breathe because I had him right next to my ear or whatever. He was breathing. And he was still breathing when I got him out of the car and when I got him in the hospital.
Now, when you jumped in your car and took off with him, did you put him in the car seat? Were you holding him?
No, I put him in the car seat.
Okay, so when he's back there, I mean, what were you looking at him? Was his telling me how he was acting in the car seat? Was he?
I mean, I kept looking back at him. He was just sitting in his car seat the way I put him, buckled up because I didn't want anything else to happen. So I buckled him up in his car seat. I mean, he was just sitting in there like normal, like he usually does in a car seat.
Was his head down like you were saying earlier?
It was
kind
of to the side.
Was it up?
It was a little to the side.
But still limp?
Yes.
Okay.
I pulled him out of the car seat. He was still limp. Ran in the hospital, told him that something was wrong, and I led him like off of my body, and he was just, still hanging his head down, and that's when the doctors kind of took over.
Okay.
Describing your child as behaving as if they have no bones is an extremely bizarre comprehension of someone who's gone limp. Initially, I wondered why she didn't use the word unresponsive to describe Ryland's condition, but Breyana claims his eyes were open and he was blinking. Someone described as limp but responsive could be experiencing infection or poisoning. It could also be indicative of brain or spinal cord injuries. Hell, it could stem from a number of issues, but one thing's for certain. In Ryland's case, something definitely wasn't right, and it was something that would sadly cut his life short.
Essentially, this child was checked into Children's Hospital 3 days ago on the 20th for hard stool, abdominal pain, throwing up. They documented on the 20th some bruising on the legs and also on the back of the arms at Children's. Okay, parents said they weren't aware of these bruises.
Later, Gus left the hospital to go home to his kids, and Breyana claims she sat in her car and cried before driving around to various places. She later called her sister and then sat in a Walmart parking lot for hours. According to her, Ryland ate nothing on the day of his death, but did drink fluids, including a slushie. Just before Breyana's first interview concludes, she asks the detectives about her son's autopsy. The detectives inform her that they suspect his injuries were caused by someone attacking him. They also make her aware that whenever these injuries were delivered, whoever was around Ryland would have had to have known he was badly hurt. But she continues to claim that no one would have intentionally hurt her son, and states that he falls a lot and even walks backwards into things often. At one point, she offers up her own father as a potential reason for the injuries because he's a big guy and likes to play around with Ryland.
I mean, my dad plays with Rye, and my dad's a pretty big guy. I mean, he is.
I understand. I understand.
The detectives want Breyana to take a computer voice stress analysis test, or CVSA. She agrees to do so, and the test is administered that day. She's asked questions about whether or not she had anything to do with her son's death. She answers no. Her CVSA test read no signs of deception. The Kites were also brought in for questioning. Before their interviews, they both agreed to submit to the same test Breyana submitted to. After the CVSA test, Ryland's grandparents were interviewed separately. What you're about to see is grandfather Fred Kite's interview.
So, we're going to talk to you guys both separately.
Okay.
And you got, when we were talking to you guys earlier at your house, you indicated that there was something else that you guys wanted to talk about.
Well, a little bit. When Bree came by yesterday, you guys had mentioned that she had stayed the night before at the Motel 6.
Mm-hmm.
So, not letting her know that we knew, her mom asked her where she was staying and what, and she straight up lied to us and said that she had stayed with a friend. So I just thought that was something that you guys might want to know. And then, did she mention anything about the damn it, the pill that supposedly they came?
Yeah, the Dramamine.
The Dramamine. I couldn't think of the name of it.
Yeah.
Because we got some information that she had told, or Gus had asked her, and she had told Gus to give him half of one or something.
Okay.
And then, I think he texted her back, and maybe she told him to give him another one. So,
Well, the way that Bree described that to us, it went a little bit different. But yeah, she did say that she gave him an entire Dramamine pill.
which was an adult dose. Okay, I didn't know, but I just wanted to.
Yeah.
And I didn't know if she would mention some.
Yeah. So for everything that we've been able to show and been able to see, do we believe that Bree has come across more information about the circumstances surrounding the death? Yeah, I think so. I think she's kind of starting to wake up a little bit. But her CVSA, she passed her CVSA. She had no signs of deception. The similar questions that you were asked, and there was absolutely no indication that she was being deceptive. So that's kind of the $1,000 question is everybody seemed to have, well, you and your wife seem to have some sort of inclination or some feeling about safety and the month or couple of weeks leading up to when he died. So is there more information that you can kind of shed on, what gave you that feeling?
I did in my personal feeling of it. I didn't feel that she was being the mother she needed to be. Yes, it was at the house, but there was times that I would come home and she was still in bed, maybe even asleep, but he was out running around. I don't think that that's the way you need to be if you're his mother. You need to have your ass up watching your son. There's still things he can get into. He could fall, he could do what have you. When he was sick, she'd go lay him down. He'd been puking. But didn't seem to go check on him, make sure he was all right. Because if he was laying down, the thoughts of, or the possibility of choking on his own vomit or this and that. There's just certain things that she wasn't doing that I felt she needed to improve on.
Okay.
And this is stuff that I talked to her about.
How did those conversations go?
Probably pretty harshly in her eyes.
Yeah.
Because like I've told you guys, I'm pretty blunt.
Yeah.
And she doesn't, she'd be like, I'm not a bad mother. I said, I didn't say you were. I just said you're a first-time mother that needs some help and some guidance. I think that you need to improve on how you're raising your son.
Okay. Did those conversations ever get heated? I mean,
We raised our voice a little bit on occasion, but nothing that, you don't have with a teenage kid or.
Yeah.
The detective on the right is about to move his chair over toward the other officer in the room. This was almost certainly a planned move at the cue of some kind of signal. The reason for the change likely stems from the fact that the interrogation is about to escalate when officers insinuate suspicion stemming from Fred's CVSA test results. The quick change in positioning might come across as an odd move, considering that the officers were initially sitting in a more confrontational setup. Previously, the detectives had Fred surrounded and cornered between the wall and the table while blocking the exit door. Yet, in contrast, the questioning manner at that stage of the interview was more conversational and casual. But the reason for the sudden change in position may be to balance out the atmosphere in the room. The interrogation is about to ramp up, creating tension, but a pathway to an exit is now open, possibly easing Fred enough to keep him talking and answering the tough questions that are coming. After all, Fred Kite is not under arrest. You see, the interview room is literally a chessboard, and all of the objects in it are pieces of the game. That includes the suspect, which it's quite clear Fred is now. But in order to keep the game going, the detectives need to apply pressure in one area while also relieving it in another to keep the most important piece of the game in play. You're about to see this happen firsthand when the other detective reminds Fred that he's free to go at any time and is only there on his own free will. Much like chess, this strategy is all about contrast. Fred thinks if he leaves, it'll make him look guilty, or at very least indifferent to the death of his grandson. He doesn't want the officers to see him that way. Also, if he walks out of the room, it's game over for the detectives.
We're just going to kind of get into, the test that you just took, and there's some things that are concerning about it. I'm not going to beat around the bush or anything like that. The two hard questions that you were asked, that was an anomaly. And Brian, the examiner, said that those questions, that you didn't pass those two questions. So, and that's kind of why I wanted to talk to you separately, is because, is there a reason why that kind of reaction would be present?
No, not that I'm aware of.
I
haven't.
Hold on a second. And you understand you're here on your own free will, right?
Yes.
And we asked you to come here, you agreed to, you can end this conversation and walk out at any time. Doors are locked. That's your choice. You understand that, right?
Right.
Okay. I just want to make sure that you remember that, okay?
Yes,
Yeah.
Yeah. But you said you were a no bullshit kind of guy.
Yeah.
We talked about that today, and that's kind of how we want to approach things too. And you failed the exam.
Let's be clear, a CVSA test is horribly inaccurate. While the manufacturing company boasts an accuracy of somewhere between 96 and 98%, a National Institute of Justice study from 2008 showed the CVSA is only 15% accurate at detecting lies. In fact, the CVSA is so unreliable that both the American Polygraph Association and the American Association of Police Polygraphists have deemed it ineffective, often less accurate than random guessing when it comes to detecting lies. Say what you want about them, but even a polygraph is touted to have about an 87% rate of accuracy at detecting deception. Regardless, neither of these tests should be used in court to prove someone's guilt. 87% is less effective than a condom, and that's just not good enough to hang one's hat of certainty on. And if condoms were only 15% effective, there wouldn't be any point in wearing them. Polygraphs have been helpful in a number of cases though, one of the most recent being the case of Sasha Samsudin. Another case where it was crucial leading to actual evidence is the case of Ashley Taylor, and I think that sums a polygraph up perfectly. It's not hard evidence, but it can absolutely lead to it. There are at least 20 cases I can list where a polygraph was the key to closing the case. CVSA tests, on the other hand, are useless for anything other than creating deception itself, like a Hail Mary for a baseless hunch. If cops really believe a suspect is guilty, but they've got zero proof, they can run this test, play on the results, and hope for a confession. It's a deceptive shot in the dark. Unfortunately, this has in the past resulted in false confessions of innocent people. So the question remains, is Fred innocent?
You failed the exam.
I don't know why I would.
Well, that's what we're here for. That's kind of what we're
I mean, I'm serious. I don't know why I would. I've never done anything to hurt that boy.
Well, so that CVSA is designed to, it works off your voice, the voice stress, right? And it's not on how you sound. That's why they ask you several different questions to get a baseline and figure things out. Okay, so it all operates off how you feel about the question that you just answered. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
So when those questions were asked, you felt like you were lying. Those machines are very accurate. That's why
I felt like I was lying.
Yes, sir.
I mean, that's kind of, is there an explanation for that? Is there any doubt in your mind?
That I did anything to him?
Yeah.
No. None.
Has there ever been a time within a week or two of death that he was hurt while he was in your custody?
No. None whatsoever.
So we talked about, back at your house when you were both saying it kind of bruises easy. Tell me about that. Have you ever experienced him bruising easily?
Yeah, a lot of times I would see the bruises on his legs, and I picked him up, under his arms, and I hold him, and I usually add one hand, like whether it be under his legs. But on occasion, there might be a fingerprint or something just where his legs were at, but nothing.
But a bruise?
Huh?
But a bruise? Or a finger, like a red mark?
Just like, a red mark.
Okay, well, I'm referring to bruises. I mean, because you know how you sit with your elbows on your knees for a little while? And
right.
You lean back and all of a sudden you look at your knees and they got those red marks. Is that what you're referring to? Or are we talking about a bruise?
Maybe a day or two after, there might be a slight, light discoloration or whatever. But I wasn't grabbing him or anything. It was maybe where I pressed and swapped because I got to swap shoulders all the time.
Yeah.
But, I mean, that's the only thing that I would have ever...
So, but I think, I don't want you to read too far into this question. Is in your memory, can you think of a time when something that you did had caused an injury, and you described injury during your CVSA as bruises, cuts, along those lines? So, if you consider a bruise an injury, can you tell me a time that you can think of when something that you did caused a bruise?
That I did?
Yes.
No. Not.
How about your wife?
No.
And Bree?
No. I mean...
So I want you to, I don't want you to think I'm trying to back you in the corner, because I'm not going to say, I'm not going to bullshit you. I'm not going to try to play any games with you. I'm going to be straightforward. I'm just looking for everybody I've talked to, everybody I've been able to talk to so far has said, bruise is real easy. Bruise is real easy. Well, the only person Bree says that he runs into stuff all the time. But we were at the house this morning, and you and your wife said, no, he doesn't. He doesn't run into stuff all the time at all. Does that make sense to you? I mean, do you see where I'm looking for some consistency.
Right.
Everybody says he bruises real easily, but you've never witnessed that.
Well, I've noticed the bruises, and like I said, like...
How did you get those bruises?
Like the ones on his leg, like I said, maybe when I picked him up or whatever.
Okay.
I don't know. I don't know if I did them. I mean, he used to have them
Your
right on
father-
his thighs.
Yeah, yes. Go ahead.
And, I mean, everybody picked him up, so I don't know if I caused them. I don't know if,
Ryan was always bruised. He's always got bruises on him. We know that from looking through photos of him and stuff like that.
right.
So, there's something happened to him that caused him to always be bruised. And it's not because he's easily bruised. This child was being mistreated. This child was being abused. And it's our job,
I understand that.
It is our
but
job.
It wasn't me.
okay?
You gotta understand
So-
that there would be nothing I would do to hurt that child.
So, then that's why we're having this tough conversation, is because when we ask those specific questions during your voice stress analysis, those two questions, did you cause injuries to, and did you cause the death? And those are the two questions that were flagged as misleading.
The detectives continue to insinuate that Fred knows more than he's admitting because of the alleged failed CVSA test. And this goes on for a while. Fred asks if there's a possibility that he failed the test because he feels like he failed Ryland, and maybe he just feels guilty for not saving him. The detectives say no because his wife and daughter both share the same guilt and they passed their exams. It's hard for me to watch Fred struggle to comprehend why he's in the position he's in. It's hard for me to watch two cops that seem to think they've got their man, suggesting a grieving grandfather is lying to them based on two questions from a test that doesn't even work. So let's clear this up. Fred Kite is completely innocent, and he should be grieving and making final arrangements for his 2-year-old grandson. But instead, he's stuck in the hot seat defending himself against zero evidence.
Just like Brian Koberger.
No, he's guilty. I have seen literally nothing that indicates Fred is being deceptive. This whole round of questioning felt dirty. Legal, but dirty.
But here's the thing. We're not saying that you did something that you meant to hurt him or meant to cause his death, right? We're saying that you know of some instance that you think could have caused this, okay? Well, and like I said, I think you're hiding something, okay? What I have to prove is, are you this guy over here that this accidentally happened, or you might have lost your temper, he might have got a little rough with you, or are you this guy over here that punched or kicked or hurt this kid on purpose because you were trying to be mean to
I'm
him?
not either one of them.
You see what I'm saying?
I know, but I'm
But
not
I've
either
got
one of
to
them.
distinguish where we're at on this.
I mean, I've had a thought in my head ever since this whole thing went down that he had a blow to the stomach, but it wasn't from me.
Who was it from?
It would have had to have been from Gus.
But how do you know that?
I don't.
So, when do you think that this took place?
I would say probably 3 weeks ago.
3 weeks ago.
2 to 3 weeks ago was when I first saw the bruises. That was, I
Which
mean,
bruises?
well, not the, I don't know if it was the first time I saw him, but it was significant. It was real bad. But it kept going. I mean, it seemed to heal itself,
Okay.
and then,
How long would it take for it to heal himself?
well, it wasn't completely healed. It would be starting to go away.
Okay.
But then when we seen he'd come back from being with Gus, it would seem like it was back again.
Okay. You said that's 3 weeks ago. But here's the problem. Here's the problem. What killed Ryland? Ryland couldn't have survived for 3 weeks without it.
Do what?
The injuries that killed your grandson,
Right.
he couldn't have survived for 3 weeks with that.
I can't believe I'm being accused of this.
I'm not trying to accuse you of anything. I'm trying to get an
But
explanation.
I know, but that's what it straight up sounds like, because I can't even fathom in my mind hurting him.
Okay.
but yet this thing is telling me that I feel like I have.
This machine is telling us that it's showing deception when you answer the question that you're asked about it, yes.
So do you feel responsible for it? Do you feel responsible for the injuries to Ryland?
I don't know really how to answer that. I mean, not directly. I feel that maybe I didn't do enough to protect him.
Okay. Do you feel responsible for his death?
I really don't. I mean, I haven't done anything to him. I don't.
So what happened? What are you thinking of right now?
I'm thinking that you're wanting me to say that.
No, I want the truth.
I don't
I don't want you to say anything that's not true.
It sounds like that's exactly what they want. I've got nothing against detectives being insistent when they have strong evidence to back up their confidence. We saw this on the first upload on this channel that dealt with the murder of Gail Spencer. Those detectives didn't need to show their full hand in the interview. In fact, it wouldn't have benefited them if they did in that specific case. But they had more evidence than one could imagine. I saw their evidence log. They were sure before they ever set foot in the interview room. So they were insistent without over-divulging information in order to get a confession that would reveal details only the killer would know. That made the confession stand up stronger in court. But what's going on in Fred's interview appears like Tweedledum and Tweedledoofy cops
Special Officer Doofy reporting.
that do not care about actually solving this case, but rather closing it quickly and being right about a hunch based on nothing. There's not even anything in Fred's body language that would come close to indicate his guilt in this crime. And that's because he's not guilty.
Like Brian Koberger.
No, he's guilty. Fred states repeatedly that he feels as though he should have done more to protect his grandson. And hey, you might be sitting there thinking the same thing. But you heard how adamant his daughter was that no one would ever hurt Ryland, especially not Gus. I would imagine she was just as adamant to her parents when they brought up concerns about Gus, likely telling them over and over that Ryland just bruises easily, just like his mother and grandmother. No, there's nothing to be concerned about. Gus isn't hurting Ryland. He loves him. Ryland is just sick. Gus is a great guy. You've got the wrong idea. He has his own kids and they love him. He's a great father to Ryland and Ryland needs that right now. I'm sure Fred and his wife heard all this and more. If there's any guilt they feel, it stems from this. Hindsight is 20/20, and it seems like Breyana fogged the glasses of their vision. In my opinion, their gut told them something was wrong, but their daughter swore they had the wrong idea. And right now, the detectives in that room have the wrong idea about Fred Kite.
What do you feel that you could have done different?
Maybe just put our foot down. Said no, he's not going with yes.
So, in your mind, without any shadow of a doubt, who's responsible for what happened to Ryland?
Gus.
What about Bree? She's mom.
Yeah, she's mom.
Why is
She allowed him to go with him.
Against what you described as some objections? You said that you had a conversation with her. I think you had some pretty harsh words with her. And you said what to her a couple weeks ago?
If anything happens to him, it's on you.
What made you say that?
The thought in my head that something was going to happen.
But that's what I'm getting at. What made you? What brought you to that place?
The bruises that I kept seeing when he came back from Gus.
Okay, where would you see bruises?
I'd seen him on his abdomen.
Okay.
I'd seen him on his face. I've seen him on his back.
You show concern, but why wasn't something done? I mean, and I'm not trying to poke a bear. I'm not. That's just it's a natural reaction as a man. If it's my grandson and I know somebody's doing something to hurt my grandson, I'll be damned if I'm going to let my daughter continue to put my grandson in that position. Why are we just now having this conversation about trying to do something to prevent what happened to Ryland?
Well, I thought we talked to you about that. We just didn't know the avenues to go about, because ultimately Breyana is his mother. We can't just say, no, you're not taking him.
Well, but you did say saying something about putting your foot down.
Fred explains that putting his foot down wasn't so easy as Breyana was 22 and repeatedly lied to him and his wife about where Ryland's bruises were coming from. She was convincingly adamant that Ryland hurts himself in natural ways and that her parents were barking up the wrong tree when it came to Gus. But the detective continues to state that he's certain that Fred's lying and claims that he is 1000% sure when it comes to a CVSA test. But the problem with this detective, outside of the fact that he and his partner resemble a pair of thumbs, only where one took a recent blow from a hammer, is the fact that they really haven't got a thing to go on. They're not just withholding evidence that points to Fred. They don't have any evidence that points to Fred. Fred probably should have ended this interview long ago and walked out of that room. He didn't kill Ryland, but they're intent on pinning the blame on him. To me, it seems that he's quite clearly deeply regretful that he didn't trust his gut over his selfish daughter's lies, because she knew Ryland wasn't hurting himself. She would have never seen him sustain self-inflicted injuries because they never happened. The 2-year-old's injuries could not have occurred that way. She knew the bruises were only happening when her son was in the company of one person, and she covered that up with lies and manipulating those who were concerned, which led to the horrific predicament everyone in this video is in right now. It's really heartbreaking. And what's even more heartbreaking is the fact that while the detectives were out of the room, Fred opens his phone and watches videos of himself and Ryland. Now, if that doesn't break your heart.
I'm gonna miss that wonder. I'm gonna miss holding on to that hand. Right now, my heart pounds like thunder through things I don't understand. I'm gonna miss that wonder. I'm gonna miss my little man.
Fred and Brenda Kite both advised that they had previously expressed concerns for their grandson's safety while in the supervision of Gus. They described numerous occasions of seeing suspicious bruises and other injuries on the child after he was alone with Gus. These concerns began as far back as August 17th and continued right up until the night Ryland died on August 23rd. In fact, that night after Breyana dropped Ryland off with Gus, Brenda wanted to go pick him up after work, and Breyana declined to allow her to do so. Mrs. Kite was also interviewed by police, and she described her husband as a man she married, knowing she would never be hit again. She'd been married to Fred for 10 years and has known him for over 20. She denied that her husband had any kind of temper. According to her, Fred has never lost control or laid a hand on anyone. Yet these cops still sat in the interview room and fed her a line of BS about how Fred failed his CVSA test. They claimed a guy his size wouldn't even have to exert much effort to inflict the kind of damage that killed Ryland. I mean, literally planting seeds of doubt in this woman's mind about her husband, who's done nothing wrong. I mean, it's utterly horrible to watch these two useless, rookie-seeming detectives toy with this lady's relationship over a bullshit test. Brenda made it clear to them that the couple feel guilty for not doing enough to save Ryland. They feel guilty for believing Bree and not going with their gut. It's as simple as that. But one thing she mentioned brought tears to my eyes, and I think really shows Fred's character.
He's very straight up, truthful, and he was just so loving, and that boy meant the world to him.
Okay.
and me.
From what we're able to tell, everybody loved that little boy. But
He would get down on the floor and play with him all night long.
yeah,
Didn't matter about his back hurting, nothing.
yeah,
He would wrestle with them with a little bear.
yeah.
I mean, Fred's sleeping with that bear now because he just doesn't understand this, just like I don't.
Okay.
Fred's wife made this statement after 15 minutes of professing his innocence and being a positive character witness for him. But it still wasn't enough to make these numb-headed cops reconsider the validity of 2 questions on that CVSA. They wasted hours interrogating the wrong people. When authorities first spoke to Gus Peraza, he detailed how he picked Ryland up at 3:30 p.m. on the day of his death. Then he headed to his friend Cody's house to hang out. But when he arrived, he stated that Cody wasn't home. Gus claimed he headed back towards Rogers on Highway 12 before turning off at a park with a pond. He was likely referring to Lake Atlanta. This was at around 6:30 or 7 p.m. An important thing to note here is that the friend Gus claimed to visit lived in the Prairie Creek area of Rogers. That's just under 5 miles from Lake Atlanta. On average, a mere 10-minute drive. Already, there are 3 hours unaccounted for on the day that Ryland died. 3 hours that Gus and only Gus was present for. Then if Gus left the Chick-fil-A parking lot around 8:30 p.m. like he said he did, before arriving to Casey's Pizza to inform Breyana of the dire situation, that means there are now 5 hours unaccounted for on the day Ryland died, while he was in the company of Gus and only Gus. 18 days after the Kites were questioned, Gus Peraza was arrested for several crimes, including capital murder, and brought in for questioning. Unfortunately for us, he refused to make a statement regarding Ryland McDonald. But while police were out of the room, he spent his time praying. In the first part of the video, he prays quietly to himself in Spanish. Then at about 10 minutes in, he notices the camera on the wall of the room. After DNA is taken from Gus and the cops leave the room, he starts praying again. Only this time he's significantly louder, and he does so in English, which is indeed very Jesus of him, because, he's speaking in tongues. And also, the authorities and a jury will have an easier time understanding what he's saying.
My parents.
After an extensive investigation, not only was Gus Peraza arrested, but 9 days later, Breyana Sawyer was detained and brought in for a second interview. The final interview we're going to see reveals the evidence that sank both her and Gus. It exposes the truth about what really happened to Ryland McDonald, or at least as much of the truth as we'll probably ever get.
Rather than ask you a bunch of questions and stuff like that, I'm just going to kind of do what I wanted to do all along, is just explain to you how we ended up to this point, okay? The phones that I seized from you and Gus, like I said, there was a lot of stuff that Gus did right out of the gate that was just, it was odd. Screams, you know, suspectability. We discussed a little bit of that during our brief conversations, but the phones were pretty damning. So I explained to you, Gustavo deleted all your text messages back and forth between you and him before I seized his phone. And you did not. So your correspondence between back and forth with him came off of your phone. But what he did not do, and what he was unable to do, is he was unable to delete search histories, Google searches and stuff like that. So I was able to establish a timeline from going back all the way back to when you guys first started seeing each other. And I believe I started making notes, I believe it was May 27th. I believe it was the first time that Gustavo watched Rye, and that was at your house while your parents were out of town. So I'm just going to kind of run through that and explain to you again how we got here, why we're in this room, and then after I get done with all that, I would like to talk to you, but I'm going to have to explain another piece of paper to you, okay? All right, so this is kind of my hand sketch, hand drawing that I came up with as far as a timeline, starting on May 27th. And that was a text conversation taken off of your phone where he said that through a fit, fell down his head. That in and of itself, not a big deal, okay? We won't talk about June 1st because I don't think that's pertinent to this, to our conversation. I don't think it's pertinent. But we'll go to June 4th. Gustavo sends several text messages talking about how he's always getting hurt when he's watching. On June 11th, I believe is when that picture was taken. The explanation I was given was this was an abrasion from falling down in a hot parking lot in Branson. The problem with that is the concentration of the injuries, the blistering around the edges of it, and the lack of peripheral scrapes. It's not an abrasion, it's a burn. Especially when you get down in between the webbing of the fingers, there's a burn. And you told me that you observed Ryland falling down the parking lot, and that's how he sustained that. That's what you told me down at the parking lot of Walgreens.
That's when I noticed it.
That's when you noticed it?
When you fell down, I don't remember.
Okay. Well, that's not a scrape. That is a burn. Okay. And that's not a question. That's a matter-of-fact statement. That is a burn. Okay, you know, we'll come back to that, but I'm gonna set that right there because I do want to come back to it. Again, on June 21st, Gus's baby says he fell twice already. And that was the day that Gus's mom sees Rye when he stops by the house. And Gus's mom tells Gus that he needs to be careful because she observed all the bruises all over Ryland. That's somebody just completely independent, making an observation. And if you want to read those, that's fine. Okay? Tell me when you're ready for me to move on. You ready? Okay. July 26th. Gustavo mentions he threw up and was throwing a fit while he was watching. Says, oh shit, I swear he didn't show me, he texted. I don't know what's going on. We're good, how are you? Rye was throwing a fit and now he threw up a little bit ago. Must have thrown up from nausea or crying too much. But both you guys said pretty chill kid during our initial interviews.
Well, he threw tantrums and stuff.
He's a two-year-old, yeah. But typically a 2-year-old's not going to throw a tantrum to the point to where he makes himself.
And he has with me. That's why I didn't see.
Was that within the past month of his death, before his death?
I don't know when it was. I mean, there's been times where we would be in the car and he'd just he'd just be crying so much and he'd throw up.
All right. Well, that's kind of the start of things, because on July 30th is when Gus's Google searches start kicking in and start to make me, wonder what's up.
The hand sanitizer he told me about was from his kid.
Mm-hmm.
He told me the hand sanitizer was because his daughter had ingested it.
So 4 or 5 days later, you take Ryland to the clinic because he's showing symptoms of what happens to a child when he ingests hand sanitizer. All right. That was on the 4th of August. All right. This is where it starts to become a little damning, okay? August 5th at 8:41 p.m. He got car sick on the way to Cody's. I had to stop and change him and wash his hair. It got everywhere, LOL. That was at 8:41. But at 6:55, his Google search says, someone punched my stomach and I'm bleeding. On August 11th, Gustavo's search history. Should I be concerned if I vomited poop? And I got punched in the gut and I pooped through my mouth. Okay. August 18th. He texted you at 8:31 p.m. Said we went to the park. He threw the biggest fit, made me fucking look bad, so we left hella quick. August 18th. That's significant as well. So, when you're done with that, I said that right here. Because you know what happened on August 19th, right? It's when he woke up, throwing up violently. After you got home off of work. Okay. And that's when you told him, I don't know, he's throwing up this morning. Could just be the car sickness. But he was violently ill all day. Alright? So that was
He had been for the past
You're
month
right.
and a half.
You're right. But there's a reason for that. Okay? So that was your text messages back and forth. On the 19th, when he was very ill. So you did the right thing. You took your son to the doctor. They noticed some things that were extremely concerning, and I can see that you were concerned about Ryland's.
But they didn't say anything to me. They didn't do anything.
They referred you up to Children's for a reason. I went to the stomach or cancer was the concern from the community clinic that was noted on his chart. So they noticed something. This kid is either suffering from some serious blunt force trauma or he's got cancer. So it's pretty significant.
Why didn't the one that I went to do?
Children's Hospital? I'm not a doctor. Okay? I'm not a doctor. I am a parent, so I am furious about that. That something was missed at Children's. Because shouldn't be dead right now. Okay. Well, let's go back to August 18th. All right. But he says he threw the biggest fit at the park. The day before I arrested Gustavo, I confronted him with these very same documents. And I asked him about that. Where was the park? You want to know what he told me? There is no park. Gus never took him to a park.
He told me that too.
He told you that there was no park?
Well, I mean, I know he has took Brad to parks before.
He hasn't.
I have the pictures where they're at the park. There's like one right behind the Casey's on Hudson.
When was that? Earlier on? So his cell phone, his location services, basically every time you send a text or you send a receive data, it sends a location stamp. And when we dumped his phone, during this time, there is no park. He drives around with your son. So why would anybody feel compelled to tell you that your son threw a fit at the park and we had to leave if there is no park?
He just told me that he just didn't want to make me feel bad.
He told me he didn't want you to think that he was a shitty person. That's his words.
That's what he said to me too. He just didn't want me to feel bad either, and also so he didn't want to seem like a shitty person.
And there's more to this because we had a long conversation about that. So, and you pretty well know the conversation leading up to when on the day that Ryland died. You recall the text back and forth, right? So we don't need to rehash all that. But it's Google search history. On August 24th, after he had talked to us, can they get fingerprints off an autopsy in a person's stomach? Can they get fingerprints off a body's stomach? How long does it take to get an autopsy report? How accurate is a polygraph? Can they get fingerprints off an autopsy? So at 8:58, you guys had this text conversation. I was able to sleep for 2 hours. It was because I dozed off. Keep seeing them in my head. I was looking online and it recommends us both get lawyers.
You were talking about that because the first cops or detectives talked to us, they kind of just...
Yeah, I understand that. But you understand that the first one, he was right. He was absolutely right. Because Gustavo, every time Rye was with Gustavo, yes, he did get hurt. But how does he get hurt if he doesn't take him to a park? Because on these dates, his phone doesn't put him in a park anywhere. So how is he getting hurt? They're just driving around town. And I showed you this, right? That was the preliminary cause of death that was obtained after the autopsy.
The detective also brings to light the fact that both her and Gus's camera rolls were examined by forensics in regard to Ryland's death. They found several photos depicting extensive bruising all over the child, completely inconsistent with falling or self-infliction. This included ruptured blood vessels in his eyelids consistent with being striked and whipping marks on the back of his legs. Breyana responded that she thought it was from her dad holding Ryland. It's devastating to watch her repeatedly try and hang her father for this crime, considering the proof on the table. In fact, those two dumb cops that were so eager to pin this on Fred were likely also led by Breyana's statements. When Gus was confronted with the evidence against him, he replied, "Yeah, you're right, this does make me look really bad." But according to police, he showed no emotion. Gus's friend Cody even came forward to police to say that Gus was never at his house that day with Ryland. In fact, he hadn't seen Gus for weeks. And no, Ryland McDonald was not anemic, and no other issues were found during his autopsy that could explain his injuries, especially when it came to the burns on Ryland's hand and Branson. Gus himself told the detective that these were caused by a curling iron or hair straighteners. So how on earth did Breyana witness her son fall in a hot parking lot and sustain those injuries that way? I'll tell you how. She didn't. In fact, in the lead up to this interview, she avoided detectives and refused to return their calls. You'd think the mother of a victim would display a little more cooperation with authorities, but instead, she harbored dark secrets for her son's murderer. With Breyana Sawyer being treated and questioned as a suspect, she's finally read her rights and formally arrested for permitting abuse and hindering. One of the last things she says in her interview before she's handcuffed and taken to jail is that she still doesn't see Gus hurting Ryland, which is mind-boggling. She had even continued to communicate with him via jail mail up until this final interview. On December 17th of 2024, Gustavo Peraza was sentenced to 30 years in prison for murder in the second degree, with the possibility of getting out in just 20. Gus is 33 now. He can walk free when he's in his early 50s on good behavior, but the 2-year-old he brutally murdered won't. In my opinion, Gus didn't accidentally lose control or overdo a punishment. I think he wanted Breyana all to himself, and I think he was willing to do anything to make that happen. It's important to understand the picture we see in this case. Ryland McDonald was tortured over an extended period of time. Those tantrums he threw were likely his best efforts to convey the fact that he was in grave danger. Yet the person who was supposed to receive that signal ignored it. I say ignore because I believe you need intent to ignore something. Ignoring is a choice. The signs were all there, and Ryland's mother turned a blind eye. And I don't think she truly believes Gus was innocent in her interviews. I think she was playing dumb and pretending to defend him because, like Chevion Miller in the Janiah Russell case or Ashley Rowland in the Blue Rowland case, she knew the truth would expose her neglect and willful ignorance to the public. I believe she was saving her own ass. 2-year-old Ryland McDonald was shoved in a car seat and tortured to death by his mother's boyfriend, and she allowed it. Even her own parents' concerned pleas bounced off her covered ears like hell on a windshield. And were you looking for justice in this story? I bet you were, weren't you? Well, Breyana was convicted of permitting abuse, and she was sentenced to 6 years probation. So 20 to 30 for Gus, and probation for Breyana? That's the sentence for a murder conviction of a 2-year-old boy? Who the hell is making these calls? Who's the judge in cases like these? Well, I'll tell you who. A man I mentioned in a story on The Disturbing Truth a few years ago. Judge Brad Caron. In the case of Isaiah Torres, another little boy from Arkansas that was murdered by his father, it came to light that his father, Mauricio Torres, had not just been hurting his own children, but he'd been absolutely brutal and vile to his previous stepchildren. We're talking details that are nightmare fuel. This man was a demon. In his trial, he was convicted. Then at sentencing, one of his previous stepkids, Quentin Martin, was on the stand testifying in his victim impact statement. Unfortunately for Quentin, years of abuse at the hand of this monster got the better of him, and he rushed off the stand toward Mauricio in an attempt to attack him. I mean, who can blame him, right? Many of us would root for Quentin. Well, not Judge Brad Caron. Oh no, he declared it a mistrial, which is astonishing. The ordeal happened at sentencing. The conviction part was over. How was it a mistrial? Well, Judge Brad Caron presided over these 2 convictions too. Why is Brad Caron so intent on sympathizing with child murderers? He even granted Gus permission to get out of jail to attend his 3-year-old daughter's funeral. Welcome to our injustice system. It favors warped hope and virtue signaling over hard, cold, dead truth. Because you see, folks, when the victim no longer walks and talks, they just do their job and assume the fallen will be forgotten. Not tonight, Satan. Let me show you how much of a real Karen Judge Brad Caron is.
A parking spot triggers a heated argument between a Benton County Circuit judge and a former Arkansas state lawmaker. 5 News reporter Catherine Gilker breaks down the video showing that tense confrontation.
My son. I don't care. Well then, sir, he should respect that.
This is Benton County Circuit Judge Brad Caron, a bailiff, and former Arkansas Speaker of the House, Davy Carter. The argument started here Friday evening at the parking lot next to the courthouse annex on Northeast 2nd Street in downtown Bentonville. In a series of tweets, Carter says he walked out of a downtown restaurant to meet his wife and son who had just parked his car. He walked over to see an angry man with a gun on his hip and a cane berating his son and wife because he parked in his parking spot. His son apologized and told him he thought he could park there because it was after 5. Carter asked Judge Caron to not speak to his son that way and that his son would move his truck.
He should respect the sign. He should respect that sign if he's going to do that. I understand. So he cannot know. Hang on a minute.
The signs in this Benton County-owned parking lot say reserved Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 5 p.m., and the incident occurred well after 5 p.m. The 4 spots you see behind me closest to the court annex building say reserved 24/7. David Sacker is the executive director of the Judicial Discipline and Disability Commission. He says they are aware of the incident and a complaint is being filed.
There are certain cases where we do intervene, and then our panel would determine whether the activity or the actions by the judge it violates the Code of Judicial Conduct.
He says 3 investigation panels will look into what happened here. We asked if Judge Karen had been investigated before, and he said he could not comment on previous cases.
There are just situations that occur, whether it's in a judge's private life or on the bench, that must be at least reviewed.
Wow, looks like he felt pretty tough with that gun on his hip. I don't need this cane. Yeah, no shit, you've got a gun. Karen also once overstepped and jailed a reporter because she recorded notes at his trial. She didn't leak anything or plan to. She was unaware she wasn't allowed to take notes. It was a simple misunderstanding. All that was needed was a caution and a reminder. But no, he decided to throw her in jail for 3 days for contempt of court. Thankfully, following the Judge Brad Karen caught on camera gone wild parking spot incident, he resigned from that specific position. And that's the only good damn thing about this story, because that was 2022 and this douchebag Karen still gets to preside over cases in Arkansas. Sorry folks, no happy ending on this one. Except for Breyana Sawyer, who has since seemingly moved on with her life and even found a new man, later offering these 2 posts on her Facebook page. She said, "Sometimes the best thing you can do is not think, not wonder, not imagine, and not obsess. Just breathe and have faith that everything will work out for the best." Well, in my opinion, Breyana, this exact advice led to the murder of your 2-year-old son. You didn't need to obsess, you just needed to think. You just needed to open your eyes to the obvious and listen to your damn parents. She also posted, "Always smile, even when things get tough." Sure, Breyana. Go ahead and smile in the light of the fact that you allowed your son to be abused to death by your boyfriend. Smile at the fact that you defended and lied for that man post-arrest, even going as far as to kind of point the finger at your own father, when the obvious was glaring you right in the f***ing face. Smile at the fact that you got off light, and your 2-year-old son is likely in the cold, dark ground. Sure, go ahead and smile, because things always work out for the best, right? Even in child murder, keep smiling. It's all disgusting, and I don't know how to end this. I'm Mr. Black, and this is just one crime.